Monstrous meals, magical recipes, and a rebellion simmering beneath the surface. 7 Recipes for Revolution isn't just a fantasy debut, it's a full course meal of political intrigue, class warfare, and huge-sized consequences. And yes, it might make you feel both hungry and slightly horrified. It's been described as Iron Widow meets the Bear and the Nightingale, which is just the beginning of what this book is. If both of those got tossed into the kitchen with a few forbidden spices and just let chaos happen, this is what 7 Recipes for Revolution would be. The premise is as original as it gets for fantasy I've read this year, a world where magical meals grant powers, but the ingredients come from these gargantuan monsters which are butchered and only the elite get to eat them. The rest, they're left with scraps, working themselves to the bone in the factories with these beasts and to make sure the upper classes stay powerful. Our main character, Paprika, is a 17-year-old butcher. His job is originally to carve slabs of meat from these monsters, pass them on to elite chefs who then cook them into meals for the upper class. He literally has to watch the magic pass him by. But Paprika doesn't just want to butcher the meat, he wants to cook it. But here's the problem. Cooking is an art reserved for the rare, the magical elite. This is the upper class. If a common like Paprika is ever caught using these ingredients, or even trying to learn, it's execution on the spot. But passion and desperation make dangerous companions. He starts stealing small cuts of the meat from the factory and starts experimenting with some recipes. In secret, of course. And then comes the spice, a rare mysterious ingredient that's found nowhere else nearby, bought on the black market. He mixes this with the last of his stolen meat and boom, creates a dish the world has never seen before. The side effect, he turns into a giant version of himself. Yeah, a little bit like Godzilla in an apron, but maybe a little less scary. From there, things spiral. Paprika's new power makes him a symbol. For the lower class, they see him as a way to rebel. The upper class see him as a threat. The rulers do arrest him, but instead of killing him, they offer him a dangerous bargain. Become a chef's apprentice in the Elite Kitchens Academy, and if they ever want to learn his recipe, they have to do this. And that's where the political games begin. This world runs on recipes. Literally. A perfectly prepared meal can cure wounds, reduce tiredness, strengthen armies, and create chaos on a massive scale. But magic is a luxury, the rares are the only ones that get it, and therefore this causes a lot of tension between our upper and lower classes. The commons that overworked, underfed, and taught from birth that they don't deserve anymore. It's propaganda that's baked into the system. This hasn't always been this way, but it has for the past few years, and therefore some of the underbelly of the city do remember the old ways. 7 Recipes for Revolution makes the dynamic hurt, and the magic system isn't just flashy, it's a way to show how power is hoarded and often kept from the masses, and it's weaponized in our own world as well as this one. The recipes themselves are equal parts brilliant and terrifying. The dishes alter reality, they don't form any kind of physics, and the ingredients themselves are actually terrifying and sometimes downright grotesque. We learn a lot with Paprika at the Academy on this. And there is some almost cannibalistic undertones, so if you are a bit squeamish, maybe not the one for you. Paprika is a fascinating protagonist. Passionate, stubborn, and also caring. He carries the weight of the systemic abuse of the lower classes as he is heightened in society. He's not just some chosen one destined for greatness, he accidentally walked into this, and then he is used by nearly every person in his life to get their own way. Paprika has the opportunity to decide what kind of legends he really wants to be. His 2 mothers are also a standout part of the cast. Their fierce love grounds him and makes him care about those around him. Even when everything else is spiraling, he can still go to his mother's and figure out what's going on. At the academy, he does meet new friends who blurs the line between rare and common, but he also meets non-friends who reinforce the ugly division. And there's also a rebel companion. I'm not going to spoil too much for you, but their influence pushes Paprika into a direction that you aren't sure is going to happen. There's some dangerous choices, and this really is kind of a hero's journey at its soul, but it's also a little bit of an anti-hero story. It's messy, painful, and morally complicated. And the way the story is set up, it's adult Paprika telling the story to an archivist. The archivists themselves has their own history. We kind of have to guess who this is throughout the entire book as we don't know them by name. And this adds another layer as Paprika has a whole history that he's telling us. We don't know if he's a reliable narrator. We're often told directly by the archivist that he's not, and that there's many things that happen in this story that may just be propaganda on their side as well. The behind it is how much is actually the truth and how much is what Paprika wants everyone to remember. Generally, this book has fantasy with teeth. It's about classism, power struggles, cultural erasure, rebellion, and the way that power often corrupts. As soon as Paprika gets this power, he doesn't quite know what to do with it, and some of his decisions are morally grey, let's say. And there's no magical escape here from inequality. Magic is a part of the inequality. It's weaponized to keep the commons down, and this is really pushed onto all of our characters and really a theme of the book. And while it's undeniably a fantasy book, you could argue it's also a little bit grimdark. Violence is very graphic, often grotesque, the stakes are high, and they have a lot of morally grey characters. There's betrayal, sabotage, and devastating loss on both sides. The world feels like it extends far beyond Paprika's small, almost naive view of him as a child and a teenager, and his personal story grows with the unreliable narrator. Political games are always simmering, even when he's not in the room, he doesn't have all the info, but he is the main person it's happening to. Structurally, the unreliable narrator and the memoir style to the archivist, it just works brilliantly. It keeps you questioning what's actually happening, what may be propaganda itself, and maybe Paprika hasn't quite remembered it correctly. This adds weight to a lot of emotional beats. We see become a lot more honest when bad things happen, and it creates a lot of tension between memory versus myth. The writing is often gritty but poetic, descriptive without it being too prosy. That said, some of the pacing can be slow, especially at the beginning. We're not sure what's going on, we're introduced to this new world as with many fantasy books. Particularly the training and cooking scenes are very descriptive. If you love a good food description like from Lord of the Rings, this is the one for you. But if you're more of a dialogue person, you might not enjoy it as much. But personally, I enjoyed it. I thought the breathing room between like heavy action and heavy dialogue and the cooking description scenes were really well done. I thought overall it gave a really good suspense and tension as we talk through what's happened in Paprika's life. But I do think some people might get a little restless, but it's an amazing book overall. Generally, 7 Recipes for Revolution is one of my favourite books of the year so far. It's one of the most original fantasy debuts I've read. It's dark, inventive, emotionally layered, political intrigue, everything that I love in a book. And it refuses to pull its punches. It's very deep cut with some of the themes and tropes that's used. If you love food magic, if you love grimdark and new voices, you'll definitely enjoy this. Our protagonists are really flawed and well written, and I think it's definitely a must read for big fantasy fans. I definitely give this a strong 4.5 out of 5. I'm already hungry and slightly terrified for the next book in the series. I really hope Brian Rose writes that quickly so we can get back to it. And then I'm going to leave you with one question. If you had to eat one magical meal knowing it would change you forever, would you take a bite? I don't know if I would, but it depends what the change would be, but we'll see. Thank you guys for watching this review. Hopefully, like me, you will love this book, and let me know in the comments if you've already read it and what you thought. It'd be great to hear what you think.